Hi, welcome to the Andrew Buckle book review of She-Hulk by Peter David. It's 552 pages in colour all the way through. The book came out in May 2022, so it should be still readily available. Marvel Omnibus. It's a thin one, so you can actually pick it up, which is quite good. Sometimes some of these Omnibus editions are really hefty. This one is definitely not that. You've got all the covers there, and you've also got obviously some details there at the back. And it's Peter David. His entire run. There's also a couple other stories from earlier as well, and you can see all the covers. The covers look great, and they got the covers as well inside the book without all the various obviously titles and blurbs, etc. And there's the titles, so you've got the titles there, so I can just put it there. You can see those. Let's just go to the book itself. As I said, it's quite a thin book. When I first got it, I thought, oh, that's a bit of a thin one compared with my usual omnibus, which is normally a bit thicker. I think just the paper is just getting thinner and thinner, but still I found it quite reasonable to look at. It wasn't, let's just so you can see how it holds there. There's there, and you can see just turn the pages, doesn't sort of fall back on itself, so that's quite nice. And that's the thing with these sort of books, when it's only about 500 odd pages, it's not going to be such an issue. I found it a fun book. There is some violence in the book. There's some really quite dramatic scenes. At no point do you really feel that She-Hulk or any of the characters, Jazinda, her friend, are any particular risk or anything. That's the, I guess you could say, there's not that dramatic sort of thing. You know it's all going to be resolved, and there's just fun all the way through it. And it's, you always have to have the radioactive look there. And there, of course, she's in prison. I think the She-Hulk always seems to end up in prison in some point. I suspect in the TV series she will end up in prison at some point. So I'm thoroughly enjoying the TV series so far. I don't know if it's going to sustain. Maybe I might get to about third or fourth and I might think, oh, you know what, this isn't as good. But I would have thought there must be millions and millions of possible stories that they can use for that, for TV series. So they shouldn't run out of ideas for at least 10 seasons, you would have thought. Does include the covers, of course, without the blurbs, which is always very nice. And you got there. Now, I'm not certain why they chose to put the first issue's cover there, but still, they did. Jaded first episode. Starts with a bit of a dull character. When I first opened this, I thought, oh no, don't like this character, highlight. But that was not the point. The key thing is my favourite character, good old Crusher Creel. The absorbing man turns up, and that's quite good. Also, of course, that's plays a central part all the way through the story as well. But great character. And you've got Crusher Creel. There's always a problem with old Crusher Creel. He's always a bit of a, well, he always loses in the end. You know what's going to happen. I'm never certain why, because he's always walking through air. He doesn't absorb air, but still, that doesn't always seem to be an issue. Or anything he seems, or glass. There's always lots of scenes where glass is hitting him. Why doesn't he turn into glass at that point? He must be like changing all the time, you'd thought. But still. So you got him. Also, you've got Super Skrull turns up as well. That's a great character. Also, Hercules turns up in this book as well, which is absolutely brilliant. I loved the Hercules. I wish they'd used more of Hercules as well. And there's wham! Fine, have it your way. There are some violence, but still, it's still lots of interaction between the characters. Just great. Great humour all the way through. And again, great. Well, let's just turn that. There's a lovely scene there with a bear there. Which, of course, the She-Hulk versus a bear, a bit of unfair. But, of course, that isn't the main villain at this point. Oh, let's just turn over there. Lots of law. So there's law courts and all those sort of things. There's another lawyer there that's involved all the way through the book. Let's see. Let's go to another page. Always the way when you're flicking through. Now, the artwork for this I didn't like. The Hercules one was brilliant. I love this Hercules story. That's not Hercules, but his Celtic god instead. But it's just a really, unfortunately, it was something about that bit of the storyline that was slightly disappointing. But maybe it's resolved later. It was just an issue, I thought, when I was reading that. But Hercules is great. I mean, I really like that. I'm surprised there's no Hercules omnibuses. I'm certain there's not. I haven't seen one. Maybe there is one. Someone will point out, say, there is a Hercules one. The story, this was a disappointment. No, it wasn't a disappointment. It wasn't a bad story, in fact. It was quite a good story. You got multiple man or something named, but the artwork I didn't really particularly like. That was the weakest artwork in the book. I think it was probably an X Factor or some story. It's certainly the those sort of X-Men characters. but it wasn't particularly my cup of tea. Though the artwork does improve, and you got that artwork. That's a much nicer artwork. And for me, sometimes the art is quite an important thing. Sometimes if you've got sort of artwork that you really don't like, it doesn't matter how good the story is. Sometimes you just sort of flick through it. You think, oh, you know what? I don't like this, or I don't find it slightly messy. Whereas if you find an artist you really like, or the art style you like, then you know, it works. I love this character. This character is great. I must say, it gave me a bit of an insight into the Skrulls, which I hadn't really realised before. So that was quite good. It was I don't know if this was a character from other Skrull stories. I'm certain I don't know vast amounts about the Skrull Empire, so it's maybe it's quite a common thread in other stories, but I just didn't know that. This artwork I liked. I must admit, this style I do definitely like. It sort of appeals to me anyway. Very easy to read, flows really nicely, and She-Hulk's great. I love her costume as well there. So you've got a slightly different costume. They changed that. Super Skrull, brilliant. Super Skrull is probably one of my favourite all-time characters. I love that guy. Even right at the start, when he came in Fantastic Four, just brilliant. He's always, of course, losing. You always know he's going to lose. He's got all the powers of the Fantastic Four, though most of the time he always seems to forget to use them. And that's mentioned in this book, which is really nice. A character you'd think that's got all those powers would spend a bit of time like working out how to use them. Doesn't particularly use them in combination very well. Really like this bit. Really, really loved that you got Sue Storm, Thundra and Valkyrie, the Liberators. Really nice combination. I don't know if they've done any stories since with the Liberator story. There was that story back in, I can't remember the issue, it was Avengers, and I think the Wasp was in it as well as Black Widow. So those ones was nice to see again. I don't know if they've used them before or since. Also had the this character as well, the Red Guardian and other, I'm not certain, Crimson Dynamo, etc. Ursa Minor, Major, one of the two anyway. Still, this character's as well. So there's a bit, like I said, there's quite a bit of violence, but even with the violence, there's quite a lot of humour. I know that sounds weird, but it certainly is. You don't feel any time that really the She-Hulk is having. There's actually a bit of swearing as well, minor swearing in the story. That was. I'm not going to say anything else about that bit. There's another couple of stories. Again, you got the Liberators there again, and you got Storm turns up as well, which is quite nice. As well as a sort of combination story with Mantis and other characters. So there's a lot of great little stories in this book. In fact, I don't think there was a single bad story other than the one that I mentioned, that the X-Men one. Just wasn't my cup of tea, but the other stories around it were actually quite good. But that one, just the artwork just didn't work for me. This is a good story. It's a sort of Christmas Carol. Got a Christmas Carol, Stan Lee turns up there. You've got Spidey in the story as well. That was good as well. I love the artwork for that. It's very unusual. I don't know the artist. That is always the thing sometimes when you go through these. You've obviously got there the cover. It doesn't mention the artist here. You obviously could look back and find out who the artist is. But if you don't do that, it's always a bit of a pity to, you know, you think, oh, that's a good art. I have to look all the way back to the front to find out. This. Not that difficult, I know. And then there's not many extras. And oh yes, there's another story as well. This was unusual. Didn't really sort of fit in with the rest of the story, but still was great. I love this bit. Perfect for Marvel comic fans. You got here, oh look, Marvel Mystery Comics. That's always quite good. I don't know what the one behind is. Still, it's great. They're not even in Snugs or Milers, I guess you would say. Maybe that's what they're called. Snugs. Never called them that. But there's a few extra bonuses there. You've got some variants there on the back. Not very particular. Poor old She-Hulk is a zombie variant. However, I was quite impressed by this. And like I say, that's why I think that the TV series would have a lot of material to use. Because I was reading through it thinking, wow, I had not realised all the various stories that... And it doesn't really particularly even mention this book. So I guess this was done... Doesn't actually... Does it say? Just says She-Hulk 25, Official Handbook of Marvel Universe Profile. But it was quite interesting just to read through it. I thought, she's had quite a career. Quite impressive. Some really good stories as well. And this one has got an inked page. That's it. I would have thought they would have included a few more, but still at the same time, I don't think it really needed it. I think this book is just absolutely perfect. Just the right size. Just the right size. It's not too big. It's fun. I found it just a thoroughly enjoyable read all the way through. It wasn't, like I say, one minor duff story. I felt that because of the artwork more than the story itself. I just thought, what a great read. I wasn't thinking it was going to be as good as this, but I was very impressed. I should have probably thought it was going to be good. Peter David is a brilliant writer, so there's no reason why it shouldn't have been a classic, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, so I'm really glad I got it. So this one, Hulk, She-Hulk, I should say. Just say Hulk. Why did they make it so small? But I guess that's how it is in the thing at the front as well. You can barely see She-Hulk. They reduced it down to just now. Looks like the Hulk. But I thought it was a great little book, and I'm really pleased I got this omnibus. I've also got the original ones. I don't know how many issues were in that one. The Savage She-Hulk, which I'm looking forward to sit down and read. I read them when they came out. These ones I've never read before, so it was really nice to read through these. I am looking forward to the Dan Slott one. I've got that on order, pre-order. I think that's coming out fairly soon, October or September or sometime. So I will be getting that. I'm looking forward to those. I'm really surprised that She-Hulk doesn't have a vast number of the epics, the earlier stuff. I know there are some She-Hulk epics out, and there's also some completes, but I don't know if some of the earlier ones are available. I mean, there's so many stories. There are loads and loads of stories, so I just hope that they come out more and more omnibus. I'm looking more omnibus now than buying them in epics. So, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Really, really good. Definitely a recommended, brilliant omnibus edition to purchase, and it was reasonably priced as well, which is quite good, because sometimes some of the especially in the UK, for some weird reason the prices, because of course with the exchange rate and all the various issues at the moment, some of the pricing now for omnibus is getting pretty extreme. So when I saw this was a reasonable-ish price, I thought, you know what, that would be a great one to have. As mentioned, I'm thoroughly enjoying the so far anyway, the TV series. Only seen 2 episodes so far. Maybe it will change. I love the Abomination character. All those sort of storyline just should be brilliant. She-Hulk's great. So totally recommended.